Welcome to Storm and Chocolate. I'm Storm and Norman. Today's song is number 31, State of Independence, from the album The Friends of Mr. Cairo by John and Vangelis. Evangelos Odysseus Papatanasiou, better known by the stage name Vangelis, is the award-winning composer, musician, and producer of electronic, progressive, and orchestral music. Vangelis may be best known for several seminal soundtracks, notable for 1982's Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, the 1980s PBS series Cosmos by Carl Sagan, and 1981's Chariots of Fire, directed by Hugh Hudson, which garnered Vangelis the Academy Award for Best Original Musical Score. We'll cover more of Vangelis' history, growing up in Greece, early bands including Aphrodite's Child, and his extensive discography when we discuss the Blade Runner soundtrack. Overall, I have half a dozen of Vangelis albums released between 1979 and 1984, and I'll discuss then why I don't have more. I also have a compilation album containing a combination of soundtrack themes and individual releases. If I recall, there weren't any John and Vangelis songs on it. I can't tell because all of my CDs are boxed up in storage and I live in iTunes. Jon Anderson, best known as the lead singer of the progressive rock band Yes, hooked up with Vangelis initially between 1979 and 1983 for their first three albums, and again in 1991 and 1998 for their latter two albums. We'll cover much of John's history, especially with Yes, when we go over I've Seen All Good People from 1971's The Yes album. At that point, we'll discuss the band's eponymous first album and the follow-up, Time and a Word. However, we'll continue to talk about the members of Yes as we cover later songs in this playlist through 1994's Talk. I don't think there was as much turnover in Yes as there was in Deep Purple or Fleetwood Mac, but there were a lot of comings and goings. So let's set the stage for the entity that is John and Vangelis. John had been the lead singer of Yes since he was introduced to Chris Squire, ostensibly the founder of the group and bassist extraordinaire, in mid-1968, and agreed to take on this role. In those early days, John was the principal songwriter and the driving force to get the band's exposure and gigs. The arc of Yes's career seemed to be up and to the right as their third record, the Yes album, fourth, Fragile, and fifth, Close to the Edge, were extolled as peaks of progressive rock in both their compositions and musicianship. However, their sixth effort, the lengthy Tales from Topographic Oceans, was seen as a disappointment from not only the fans, but by some group members. It featured 4 sidelong tracks, which made it difficult to get radio airplay, whereas Close to the Edge had 3 songs, the title track, And You and I, and Siberian Khatru, with And You and I receiving continuous airplay on classic rock stations. I still don't own Tales, if that tells you anything. Rick Wakeman, who had difficulties with Tales and the subsequent tour, quit the band after the tour ended in May of '74, the same week that his solo effort, Journey to the Center of the Earth, entered the UK charts as number 1. Rick, the band's keyboardist, was replaced by Swiss keyboardist Patrick Moraz, who ended up being a major influence for the subsequent album Relayer. Following Relayer, we're going for the one and Tornado. While Relayer was similar to Close to the Edge with only 3 songs, I don't think it fared as well. I don't recall any singles playing on the radio. But Going for the One and Tornado were full of radio-friendly, single-worthy songs. These came out in '74, '77, and '78 respectively. Not so coincidentally, Vangelis had been auditioned by the band as a replacement for Wakeman before Patrick Moraz was hired. John had met Vangelis in Paris while on the Tales tour. However, several factors like his fear of flying and his inability to commit to the band, like for touring purposes, put the kibosh on his joining Yes. While Wakeman came back after Relayer and Patrick Moraz ended up in the Moody Blues, but that's another story, he only stuck around until rehearsals for Yes's 10th album, Drama. The story of Drama will be a drama. The story of Drama will be a side note to It Can Happen, my favorite song from 1983's 90125, mainly because not only did Rick Wakeman leave, but so did John. Drama indeed. So John was out of Yes from March 1980. But as I said, John had known Vangelis for half a dozen years by then, and they had a working relationship. Initially, John wrote lyrics for and sang on one of the movements on Vangelis' 1975 album Heaven and Hell, and contributed to other Vangelis works. Working for less than 3 weeks of consecutive time and employing a lot of improvised recordings, John and Vangelis recorded Short Stories throughout 1979 and released it in January of the next year. It contained the hit I Hear You Now, which hit the top 10 in 4 countries. We'll cover more of this album when we discuss that single. They reunited in 1981 to record The Friends of Mr. Cairo, which was released in mid-year. This album had the greatest commercial success, hitting the top 10 in 5 countries and the top 40 in a couple more. 3 singles were released from this album: the title track, Today's Song, State of Independence, and I'll Find My Way Back Home, which was originally a non-album single until the second version of Mr. Cairo added it. We will discuss all 3 singles in this playlist. I got into John and Vangelis by the 2-pronged gateway drugs of Yes and Blade Runner. There were a couple of movies I binged on while I was in college when I would win enough money playing nickel, dime, quarter poker with my roommates on Wednesday night to get the $2.50 matinee price on Friday every week. One such movie was Risky Business, the Tom Cruise vehicle with the Tangerine Dream soundtrack. Another was Streets of Fire, where we get song number 32, and a third was The Breakfast Club. However, before this arrangement, I had a VHS tape of Blade Runner, which I used to which I used to watch almost every day when I got up, sometimes twice. And Vangelis' score really set the mood, with his synthesizers meshing with the futuristic landscapes. I was also aware of Chariots of Fire at the time, but have yet to watch it. I bought those first 3 John and Vangelis CDs around 1986, and I just listened to them straight through over and over. I didn't know what to expect. I went in with an open mind, and I found several songs that spoke to me. Friends of Mr. Cairo is by far their strongest release. Short Stories I would describe as pretty experimental, but Private Collection does have a nice LP side length song that I like, along with the song just before it. I think those are in the playlist in addition to the single from Short Stories. Ironically, State of Independence did not chart as a single as recorded by John and Vangelis. Instead, Donna Summer's version, released a year later, did chart, hitting the top 10 in a couple of countries, top 40 in 4 more, and just missed the top 40 on Billboard's Hot 100 at number 41. John said that for this song in particular, the lyrics were improvised as he listened to the music, clapping his hands to give him rhythm. He got into a mood where the Spirit spoke through him, spouting all different kinds of things. I had heard in another interview that John said that that was the way that he worked a lot of the time, where he was not consciously writing, composing, creating, but channeling the universe. When I heard this, I looked back on his career in Yes with amazement, appreciation, and gratitude because he's crafted iconic songs in this way. I am agog.
More like synagogue.
Synthagogue. The music starts kind of the way it ends. Spoiler alert, with a bit... The music starts kind of the way it ends. Spoiler alert, with a little Jesus! The music starts the way that it ends. Spoiler alert, with a bit of cacophony, not necessarily discordant, but certainly disorganized. But then it settles down and we get an arpeggiated sequencer that becomes accompanied by several percussion sounds, hand claps, snare, a noisy, echoey pop. After a couple rounds of this sequence, a simple piano joins in, establishing its own sequence. And just before John starts singing, we get like 12 or 16 high note pings on the piano. And the words are incredible. If you deconstruct the song too much, you lose sight of the meaning. Or put another way, you need to take each verse as a whole in order to make sense of it all. And even then, you might not succeed. As he sings in the first verse, this sense of freedom derives from a meditative state. The song really has two parts, two different constructs of lyrics. The music is basically the same, but we get a chord change for the second part, and we have a sax playing too. In the first part, he uses a lilting cadence and almost run-on sentences, whereas in the second part, he sings at 1/4 the rate of the first part, very languidly. Perhaps because the message here is more important. Here are the first two lines of the song. Those two rhyme, of course, but there are 19 syllables in the first line and 21 in the second. But that's okay, he's moving to a different rhythm. Then about halfway through the first part, we get some nonsense words as a chorus, and then perhaps the explanation of the song with its title. And immediately we get the chord change, and let's call it a sax solo, although there's not a lot going on. But the second part is less mystical, less metaphysical, and instead becomes an expression of being in love through the language of music and sound. It starts with the third line brings in more of the world, not just the two of them, but their lives together, building a good home on the foundation of love. And at the end, he recognizes the higher power that, once recognized and acknowledged, once heard, the truth of this love will be recognized by all, will abound the land, and the state of independence of this couple, not necessarily away from others, but towards each other, shall simply be. This is the message. And then, a minute before the song ends, the music gets playful, like we started. The description has a link to the full version, which is almost 8 minutes long and includes the last minute of playfulness, except no substitutes. Also included is a link to the Donna Summer version. It is more of a disco sound without being disco, and sounds like it includes many of the contemporary synthesizers of the time that were available in the studio, whereas Vangelis was a master of creating his own sounds on an array of complex machines. Donna also sings with a Caribbean accent in the first part, which seems to come and go. This is kind of supported by the almost reggae beat. She is also accompanied by some backup singers on the important parts. Also, it's missing the fun parts at the end. I really love this song by John Vangelis. While I try to sing along in the first part and fail miserably, if not spectacularly, I really love singing the second part. I'm always singing it to my wife, in my mind. I don't do it in person because I'm not that good at hitting the right notes, as she tells me, but it's always with her in mind. To that end, I've included a link to where the correct lyrics are located. The first half dozen sites I visited were all wrong, which I could tell from what I remembered them to be from the CD pamphlet. Also, Donna's rendition is slightly different by having a second chorus with a chord change, but besides that, the lyrics are the same as John created them. So that's it for Song 31, State of Independence by John Vangelis. Next time, we'll see if tonight is what it means to be young as we traverse streets of fire. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.